Good night, this is Fumi Sleepy Time Stories. Tonight's bedtime story is about to begin.
Once upon a time, in the kingdom of dreams, there was a king who lived in harmony with his beloved wife. They had a deep and loving relationship. His wife had long, beautiful golden hair and was incredibly beautiful. Unfortunately, one day she suddenly fell ill and never recovered. She called the king to her bedside and said, "If you wish to remarry after my passing, promise me that you will only marry a woman as beautiful as I am and with golden hair like mine." The king agreed, and soon after, the queen passed away. The king grieved for a long time, having no desire to remarry or to govern his kingdom properly. Eventually, his ministers said, "This cannot go on. The king must take a new wife in order to rule the kingdom well." Thus, after much discussion, the ministers sent envoys in all directions to find a woman as beautiful as the late queen. However, no matter how thoroughly they searched the kingdom, they could not find such a woman. Even when they found women with extraordinary beauty, none of them had the golden hair of the late queen. The envoys could only return in disappointment. The king and queen had a daughter, who grew up to look almost exactly like her late mother and had the same beautiful golden hair. As time passed, the princess blossomed into a graceful young woman. The king looked at his daughter, and the more he gazed upon her, the more he felt as if his late wife had returned. This led him to develop a deep and intense love for her. The king told his ministers, "I shall marry my daughter. I swore to the queen that if I were to remarry, it must be to someone as beautiful as she was, and with golden hair. The princess perfectly meets these conditions. I will never find anyone who resembles her more." The ministers were horrified and exclaimed, "The heavens forbid marriage between close relatives. Such an act is a grave sin, and the entire kingdom will fall into misfortune because of it." No matter how much they pleaded, the king refused to change his mind. The news quickly reached the princess. Upon hearing it, she was shocked and found it utterly unacceptable. She wished for her father to reconsider. So she said to the king, "Before I agree to your proposal, I must first receive 3 dresses, one that shines like the golden rays of the sun, one that glows silver like the moon, and one that twinkles like the stars. Besides that, I also want a cloak made from 1,000 different animal pelts. Every species in this kingdom must contribute a piece of its fur." The princess thought, "These demands are impossible to fulfill. Surely, this will make father change his mind." However, the king did not give up. He ordered the finest tailors in the land to craft the 3 dresses, one that shimmered like the sun, one that gleamed like the moon, and one that sparkled like the stars. He also summoned the kingdom's greatest hunters to gather the pelts of every animal, sewing them together into the cloak of 1,000 furs. Amazingly, everything was completed in less than half a year. The king summoned the princess and displayed the 3 beautiful dresses and the magnificent fur cloak before her. "I have fulfilled your request," he said. "We shall begin preparations for the wedding tomorrow." Seeing that she could not make her father change his mind, the princess secretly resolved to flee far, far away. That night, when all was silent, the princess quietly got up. She took a golden ring, a golden spindle, and a golden reel from her jewelry box. Then she carefully placed the 3 radiant dresses into a small chest. She smeared black soot from the fireplace over her hands, feet, and face. Finally, she draped the cloak of 1,000 furs over herself and departed. She managed to escape the palace without trouble. She ran all night without rest, terrified that the king would come after her. As dawn broke, she reached a deep forest. Exhausted, she found a hollow in a tree and fell asleep inside. She did not wake even when the sun rose high in the sky. This vast forest belonged to a young king. One day, while out hunting as usual, his hounds picked up an unusual scent near the tree hollow. They sniffed around before barking loudly at the tree. The king said to his attendants, "Go and see what kind of beast is hiding there." The attendants obeyed and checked the hollow. They reported, "Inside the tree is a strange creature, sleeping soundly. Its fur is a patchwork of many different animal pelts. We have never seen anything like it before." The king, intrigued, said, "Try to capture it alive. If possible, bring it back to the palace." As the attendants moved in to grab her, the princess awoke in terror and cried out, "I am a child abandoned by my parents. Please, have mercy on me and do not harm me." Realizing it was not a rare beast, the king lost interest and left his attendants to handle the matter. One of them said to her, "1,000 furs, you shall work as a servant. Follow me." And so they took the princess back to the castle. There, they led her to a small room beneath the stairs and said, "1,000 furs, this will be your home." From then on, the princess was assigned the dirtiest and most exhausting tasks: carrying firewood, fetching water, sweeping ashes, plucking poultry, and washing vegetables. 1,000 furs lived in that country for a long time, working tirelessly every day. One day, the palace was preparing for a grand feast. The princess asked the head cook, "May I go and take a look, just from outside the hall?" Seeing that she was usually diligent, the cook agreed. "Fine, but only for half an hour, then you must return to work." She hurried back to her small room, lit a lamp, and washed away the soot on her face, hands and feet, revealing her stunning beauty. She opened her small chest, took out the dress that shone like the sun, and wore it as she stepped into the grand hall. The crowd parted before her as if the sea had split in two. Though no one recognized her, they all assumed she was a noble princess. The young king approached and extended his hand. "May I have this dance?" As they danced, he thought, "I have never seen such a beautiful lady before." When the music ended, the princess curtsied, but by the time the king looked up again, she had disappeared. No one at the palace gates had seen her leave. She swiftly returned to her room, changed back into her 1,000 furs disguise, and resumed her kitchen duties. The head chef instructed her, "Sweep the ashes tomorrow. For now, prepare a bowl of soup for the king. Be careful not to let any hair or dirt fall into the soup, or you won't get dinner tonight." After the head chef left, 1,004 prepared a bowl of bread soup for the king, her specialty. Then, she secretly placed a golden ring into the soup. The king, feeling hungry after dancing, ordered food to be served. When the servant brought the soup, the king took a sip and immediately fell in love with its taste. As he neared the bottom of the bowl, he noticed a golden ring. Without hesitation, he summoned the head chef. The moment the head chef heard the news, He turned to 1004 in alarm. You must have dropped your hair into the soup. If that's true, you'll be punished. Trembling, he appeared before the king, who asked, Who made this soup? I did, the head chef replied. No, that's not right, the king said. The soup tastes far better than before. It wasn't you. The head chef had no choice but to confess. It was made by that kitchen maid, Thousand Fur. The king then ordered Thousand Fur to be brought before him. He asked, Who are you? I am an orphan without parents, Thousand Fur replied. The king continued, What is your role in my palace? She answered, I do menial chores. The king then asked, Where did the golden ring in the soup come from? I don't know anything about a golden ring, she said. Seeing that he could not get the answer he wanted, the king had no choice but to let her go. Not long after, the lively king hosted another ball. As before, 1004 asked the head chef for permission to take a look. Go ahead, he agreed. But you must return in half an hour to prepare the king's favorite soup. The princess hurried back to her room, quickly washed her face, hands, and feet, then put on a dress that shimmered like the silver light of the moon. Dressed elegantly, she entered the grand ballroom. The king immediately noticed her, his eyes lighting up with joy, as he invited her to dance. As the music played, they danced together. But as soon as the melody ended, she vanished once again. The princess ran back to her room, hastily put on her thousand fur cloak, and returned to the kitchen to prepare the king's soup. When the head chef left, she quietly placed a golden spinning wheel into the soup. When the soup was served, the king eagerly took a sip and found it just as delicious as before. At the bottom of the bowl, he discovered the golden spinning wheel. At once, he summoned the head chef, who, trembling, confirmed that 1004 had made the soup. Once again, the king called for 1004, but her answers remained the same, insisting she knew nothing about the golden spinning wheel. Sometime later, another grand feast was held at the palace. While working in the kitchen, the head chef asked 1004, What kind of magic are you using to make the king love your soup so much? 1004 remained silent, just as before. She requested permission to attend the ball, and the head chef allowed it, reminding her to return on time. This time, the princess wore a gown that sparkled like a sky full of stars. As she entered the ballroom, the king approached her once more, thinking to himself, she looks even more beautiful than before. As they danced, the king secretly slipped a ring onto her finger. Sensing his intentions, the musicians extended the music, prolonging their dance. When the song finally ended, she had already missed the head chef's curfew. The king tried to hold on to her, but she managed to slip away into the crowd and disappear. However, this time, she didn't have enough time to remove her dazzling gown completely. She quickly threw on her 1000 fur cloak, but failed to notice that one of her fingers remained clean and uncovered. Hurriedly returning to the kitchen, she prepared the king's soup as usual, secretly placing a golden spool of thread inside. When the king found the golden spool at the bottom of the bowl, he immediately summoned 1000 Fur. As she approached the king, she lowered her head in a bow. But when she stretched out her hand, her clean, fair finger was revealed. The king instantly noticed it, along with the ring he had placed on her finger during the dance. He quickly stepped forward, reaching out to remove her cloak. Seeing his intention, the princess stepped back, trying to escape. But the king grasped the cloak, causing it to tear slightly. In that moment, the brilliant starlight of her gown spilled out from beneath it. Without hesitation, the king pulled the cloak away, revealing the princess's golden hair cascading down her back. She stood, frozen in place. Flustered, this was not how she had planned it. The king, unable to contain his excitement, immediately ordered for her to be bathed and dressed properly. When she returned, her beauty was so breathtaking that no one in the room could look away. Kneeling before her, the king earnestly declared, "You are the one destined to be my bride. Please, do not leave me again." The princess accepted his proposal, and soon after, they were wed. They lived happily ever after, growing old together. you.